We'll see. That's so funny. When you hit go live, I don't know how long until actually is live. Hello, everyone. If you are joining us live, please say hello in the chat box. Let us know. Can you see both of us? We're trialing some new things this week.
Yes.
We see Kathy. Hi, girls. I'm ready to make mess. Yes.
Yay!
Yes. And if you're making mess and you're unable to comment, you can always come back and comment later. So
it's just come up on my screen that you've gone live. So hopefully it's coming up on lots of people's screens that we're now live.
Yeah, well, with the comment screen, oh no, there I am. I can see both of us. That's cool. That's all good. Actually, I'm going to test this. If someone can let me know before you guys start getting messy, when I turn my camera off, do you just see Cheryl-lee? Because when she's going to zoom in on the backgrounds, I want to be able to talk, but not take up the screen space. So
okay. Bye, Suze. It's just me. Okay, anybody watching in comments, can you please say if you see just me, Suzanne, say something.
Say hello.
Hello, Suzanne. So when Suzanne says hello, does that still remain on me? And if you're watching on replay, did you get my bit at the beginning where I'm going, gee, pink makes me look pink?
If I had any editing skill, we could always edit out that later, but that's no fun then.
No, it's no fun if you edit.
This is live TV, people.
That's right. And some people do have us on their TV.
All right. Charlene says, yes, she can see us both. Can you still see me now? I'm trying to go in and see from my phone. Maybe I'll try my iPad.
Yeah, because she might be a few moments behind in lagging and things.
Yes.
Yep.
Yes, because sometimes you don't know where the comment's coming from. When we first went live and said, can you see us or now?
Yes.
I'm just calling up my iPad shirt. I'm like, you can't see me because my camera's off. I could be making all sorts of faces at you and you would not know.
And people can log in on your cup and have quite the giggle.
Oh, no, they shouldn't be able to see that though with any luck.
Oh, because good point. I'm the only one that can see it.
You're the only one who can see that. No, okay, I've got my iPad open and I can just see you. So it looks like it's going to work.
Excellent. And even though you're talking, you can't see yourself?
I cannot see myself.
Okay, let's make a start. Well, I will make a start. Oh, yep.
I'm back. I'll close off when you start getting the bits and bobs out.
Well,
actually, quickly, just say hello, who you are and what we're doing for anyone who happens to come across this and doesn't know what this is about.
Hello, I'm Cheryl-lee Randall, and I have a store down in Tassie, Image Plus. So the website's imageplus.com.au. And today we are going to make backgrounds, really, really simple backgrounds, lots of backgrounds. And then in future videos, we're going to decorate them. Sometimes when you're at home and you want to craft and you get a complete and utter crafting block, this video is perfect for you. So if you turn yourself off, Suzanne, I'll make a start. Is that the right word?
I'm gone.
It's just me. So I'll have a very quick talk first. Complete disclaimer. Any of the terms I use in this video are usually Cheryl-leeisms. Is that a word? It is now. There are a lot more properties than I'm going to describe. For the sake of our video, we're going to go basic. The need to know. If I give you all the properties, I know what happens when I get given too much information. My ears close down and I run away and hide. So let's turn the camera around and start looking at some inks. So
I will just interject there, Cheryl-lee, with my voice from the deep. If you have questions, if you're coming across this, like I love your point about we're not wanting to overwhelm people 100%. As this is going to be a series, we encourage any and all questions, pop them in the chat box, and that may inspire a future live stream. So please ask away, even if we don't get to it today.
Perfect. There might be something we haven't thought of, and we're like, whoa, let's do a whole video on that. Okay, let me turn this around. Turning around button. Okay, you might have to stare at me the whole time.
Look into my eyes.
Look into my eyes. You've been watching Little Britain. Okay, so let's talk inks. In really basic terms, there's pretty much 3 types of inks. As I said, this is just basics. There are lots of inks, but there's 3 basic ones you need to know about. There's a solvent ink, or a lot of us like to call them an alcohol ink. You can get what's called a pigment ink. And I like to remember the pigments to go on top. That's a beautiful ink to work to go on top of things. How's my lighting? Is that about right?
If you could, that's a bit better. It was a little bit dark, but that's better.
And then there's
Are
what
you
we
able
call...
to zoom it in slightly or not?
Oh, good point. I forgot about that. We worked out to zoom in last week.
So now
Yes.
you just got, yeah, that's heaps better. Thank you.
Excellent. And we might have a little bit of reflection. These are old classroom inks, hence you can see they're quite tattered, but they will do the trick for what we're doing
I'm just
today.
going to interrupt you very briefly, Cheryl-lee, just to just shout out to people in the chat box. Hello to everyone who's saying hello. Thank you. Kathy Dwyer, Karen Thorne, Charlene Brown, Sharon Ling. If I pronounce your name wrong, please feel free to voice note me and let me know, or Cheryl-lee will probably correct if she knows. But yeah, thanks for saying hello. Welcome, welcome.
And then the third type of ink is what we like to call a water reactive ink. We all know Tim Holtz's inks are water reactive. He calls them distress. You can get your basic distress and you can get your oxide distress. I'll explain the difference in just a moment. Other distress ink, other water reactive inks. Your pink fresh ones can be water reactive. Your memento ones tend to be water reactive. I could go on all day with different inks, but how do you know if you have a water reactive ink? Because what we're doing today, we want it to be water reactive. Guess what? You test it with some water. So here we are. Here's our alcohol ink. We're going to swipe a bit of that out. Old classroom ink pad. Hence, it doesn't come out very dark.
Sorry to interrupt again, but just as a reminder, what's the purpose of today? What are we making?
We are going to make card backgrounds. We're going to use water reactive inks, and I'm showing people how to know at home if their inks are water reactive.
Perfect. Thank you.
Sometimes it will say it. For example, on the back of this one, it says perfect for water-based techniques. But then you'll get one like this. It's like, oh, it says nothing. How do I know if this is water reactive? You wipe it out on the seat like that. So this one is our alcohol based. This is our pigment. This is the one that we're wondering if it's water based. Then you spritz it with some water. And look what happens. Can you see the water based one is running already?
Yes.
Is it showing up? Yes, see, all the water's starting to run out of it.
You can see it coming towards your thumb.
Yes. The other two, no reaction whatsoever. So if you wonder if your ink is water-based, spritz some water on it and you will find out it's water-based. And it's that simple. So once you have your water-based inks, we can make a start. So any inks you've got at home, if you're wondering, the test is that simple. If they are a distress ink or a distress oxide, yes, they're water reactive. Now, briefly, the difference between the two.
You're like psychic. I was just about to ask that. What's the difference between the ink and the oxide?
Yes, so this is distressed ink and this is distressed oxide. This was the first one that Mr. Tim Holtz, who we all love and adore and worship, brought out. This is a water reactive ink. If you put some ink on a piece of paper or your cardstock, let it dry, put some more ink on it, put more water on it, it will always continuously react with water every time. It is purely water reactive, unless you seal it, obviously, but that's another story. The distress oxide. Mr. Holtz mixed water reactive ink with a pigment ink. It even tells you on the here, water reactive dye and pigment ink fusion. So this is water reactive while it's wet. Once it's dried, if you try and add more water, the pigment ink properties kick in and it will not react again.
So it's like a one-hit wonder kind of thing?
That's right. So they're your two main differences. They do dry differently. This one tends to, like his regular distress inks tend to dry and be quite vibrant depending on the colour you use. These ones dry with a bit of an oxidized finish, hence he's added the word oxidize. They also tend to be creamier on your finished product. So depending on your look. Yes?
Do they come in the same colours? Like as in, that one says, I can't quite read it.
Villainous Potion. Yes, they do.
So you could get Villainous Potion in ink and oxide. Okay, cool.
Yes, you can get exactly the same colour in, oh, hang on, I have them around the corner here.
Here's one I prepared earlier.
Here's one I stacked on the shelf earlier. For example, I grabbed Wilted Violet. Well, that was useless.
While you're grabbing it, you know how you said, unless you set them, I was going to start humming Indiana Jones, like, dun, 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 like, you know, you said it.
No, you can set them by rubbing, setting sprays and things on them.
I think crawling through a tube sounds like more fun, but anyway, each their own.
So there we are. That's Villainous ink in distress. Sorry, Villainous Potion in distress. There
it's literally called Villainous Potion. That is so
his
cool.
names are awesome. His names are awesome. This one's Chipped Sapphire, Speckled Egg. We have Rustic Wilderness. We have Abandoned Coral.
How crushed would you be if you chipped your sapphire? Like, imagine Kathy, our sister who loves sapphires.
I've never considered it like that, but that is 100% a real thing.
Hello, Susan. Welcome to the party. I'm the voice from the deep. We're almost name twins, almost.
Okay, so let's make a background. I'm working on, as long as you're working on a non-absorbent surface. So if you're working on a bit of cardboard, say you had an old piece of cardboard to work on to protect your surface, it's cardboard and paper are going to absorb the ink, so you're not going to be able to work on them. This will hold the ink. This is a non-stick mat. I have it over a glass mat. If I can peel this back. No, I can't. If I can move the camera across. I have a glass mat underneath. Can you see that?
Yes. So what you're saying is if anyone watching this is an Airbnb, Image Plus Scrapbook superstore.com takes no responsibility for background dyeing that may happen.
Any dyeing of the table that may happen. That's right. So work on a non-stick surface. If you have to work on a plastic bag, I have done that. So we are going to make the most basic of backgrounds. Let's all work together. Some people said to me today they had pre-chopped their cardstock. I said I'm going to go so basic as to chop the cardstock while people are watching. So I just have a piece of...
Shout out to the people who are already prepared.
Oh, I know. Okay, I'm going to show you just how lazy I am.
No, it's efficient. It's efficient. I'm going to interject there. You're not lazy, you're efficient.
Normally, you could measure your piece of paper and cut it in half. I bend my piece of paper and put a little kink there. See where the cut mark's going to be? Because I usually can't be bothered measuring things. And so then I just line my little cut mark up with my hole and ta-da, chop it in half.
Actually, just while you're chopping, a note for anyone watching, and this is for any sort of YouTube video, especially those of you on the replay to be easier. If you're ever watching something like this and you're like, okay, this is the part that I want to come back to rewatch, like this is where they're getting into the meat, or potatoes if you're vegan. If you put, like, for us live, it's 12:07. If you put 12:07 and whatever comment, nice day, in the chat box, that will actually create a little chapter link for you. So when you come back to the video and click on that, it will go back to the part that you want to start watching. You're welcome. I do it all the time. It's amazing.
I didn't know that. And will everyone see that comment, or will it only
Everybody would see that. So some person might go 12:07, cutting the cardstock, however many minutes we get up to, 15 something or other, doing the stamping or whatever. And it's useful. Like, not many creators, if any, that I know of would be unhappy for you doing that. Like, I always smile when people do it. So
that is clever. So now then, we are going to start with two colours. I've got a dark purple and a light purple.
I won't tell you what I just heard there. It rhymed with two, but it was not.
So we are going to take the lid off our ink pad. I might even zoom a little bit like that so you can see more of what I'm doing. Let me know if you need me to zoom in further. I just zoomed out. We are going to turn our ink pad upside down and put some ink down. Now, as you can possibly see, it's beading on our non-stick surface, which is nice.
Okay, is that because it's already damp, or because it's moisture in the air tonight, or like is there a reason for that? I think
it's like if you put water on a waxed car, it beads. So this is quite a nice, fresh new mat. So
if people if they're not using the mat and they're not seeing that, they're not doing it wrong. It's just that because you're using a wax mat. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, it's quite a waxy mat. Yeah.
Cool.
So we're going to actually do a few different techniques. First of all, we're not going to wet that because you will get a very different technique. If you just press it down and lift it up, look at that really funky finish. So just move it all over the place, press it down. And when you lift it up, you get I don't particularly like this technique, but I just showed it to you because there's one way of making a background. So then just set it aside to dry. If you're
literally, that's all you got to do.
That's all you got to do. If you're
even I can do that.
Yeah, that'll dry by next month. But if you're anywhere else in the world, she'll dry.
For anyone catching us from overseas, you could dry it in 5 minutes because it's your summer. But for us here in the southern hemisphere,
And then these here, I just get these in Bunnings. I don't know if anyone's ever seen them. Just near the entrance to Bunnings quite often. They're a 20 pack of microfiber cloths for like $10. And they're really handy because you just, use them and then throw them in the washing machine. Okay, so now we're going to use those same colours and do the technique that I really like. So we're just going to put some little inks upside down. Now,
and does it matter if they overlap?
Doesn't matter if they... Now, this is where it comes down to if you're pedantic and hate getting a little bit of stain on your ink pad, don't overlap them. But if you're like me and you're beastly careless, if you get a little bit, I don't mind if I get a bit of another colour on my ink pad. It's certainly not going to kill it. They can overlap. See, they aren't overlapped, but if they do, doesn't matter. All you're going to do is get a little bit of stain on your ink pad, and you can either wipe it off with a tissue or with time it'll just, be gone. So now we have our ink like that. We're going to take our handy little spritz bottle and we are going to spritz it. And as you can see, we're now getting big beads. Let me take the camera closer.
Okay, just to clarify for like as you said at the beginning of this live, if you're only joining us now, these are the Cheryl-isms or Cheryl-lee-isms, not the official name. But for people watching, what would you have called technique 1 if you were going to give it a name?
Oh gosh, direct application.
And this is the spritz technique?
Yeah, this is just just spritzing water. Yeah.
Oh, I just like to know these things, and these are things I'd be taking notes of because then I was like, oh, this is the one that, So cool. Keep going.
Yep. So we're going to take our piece of paper, and that's all now wet and watery from our thing. So when we press our piece of paper into it, all that water, you can even see some beading out the side, is going to travel around underneath. Look, some of the ink's going to come out on top and get dragged.
Oh, that's oddly satisfying.
It is. And then look
that's heaps better than the other one.
Beautiful finish. As I said, I much prefer this finish. It's very wet now, obviously. And to say you had missed a little, see, I've missed that tiny bit there. You can just, if you want to, drag it through and get a little bit more. Now, I meant to say this earlier. I cut my cardstock into a quarter. Most of the time when we mount a card front, we cut it down a little bit so you can see the edge of the card around the outside. I'm looking around to see here's one, for example.
You've got to say it with the right voice. Here's one I prepared earlier.
No, this is a completely different card, but a card's front. See how you have a bit of a border around it on your card?
Yep.
So most of the time we will cut our card front so we can see a border on it. When I'm making these, I cut my cards so they're full size, because when it dries, quite often, see how it has a little dark edge down there?
Yes.
Quite often, and that bugs me. I hate that. So when I want to use this on my card, I can trim that edge off.
Ah, yes. Okay.
Yes. So that is another way of making a card front. And then I would recommend having something off.
If you were going to trim this down afterward, obviously it's got to be dried. Otherwise your trim is going to be having a shower, colourful one. Would it then leave like a sharp kind of tear thing, or would it just be a nice neat cut, or does it depend on what sort of trimmer you use?
If you've got a good blade on your trimmer, you'll have a beautiful sharp edge.
Perfect.
If you ever get a tear on your cardstock, either you've used really cheap and nasty cardstock or your blade's on the way out and needs to be replaced.
Perfect.
Yes. Or sometimes the mat that you're cutting against is quite worn out, so your blade can't get. We should do a tool talk video sometime.
We wouldn't call it that. Can you imagine the audience? Imagine the audience. If you're just jumping on, we've got some new people coming on. Welcome. Feel free to say hello, ask any questions in the chat box. It is an interactive thing. I'm just feeding the comments to Cheryl-lee because she's doing the demo. I'm the voice from the deep, Suzanne, her sister.
Let's now do this exactly the same thing, everybody. If you have some oxides, grab your oxides. Ooh. If you don't have oxides, just grab some more. I've got a green obsession. I've got
another question. Can you do one oxide and one the other thing? It wasn't called oxide. I've forgotten the name.
The regular distress?
Yeah.
You can mix anything you want. There'll be people out there that say, no, you can't. You will get a creamy finish with regular finish when it dries. But you know what? If that appeals to you, that appeals to you. Literally. Oh, what I did forget to mention. Oh, I'm so glad I thought of this, because I forget this every single time I go into background making. I forget this. Grab a pen and write the 2 colours on the back. Because if you get this absolutely amazing colour combo when it dries and you can't remember the 2 inks you used, you'll never recreate it. been there, done that. I'm like, what? Because as they dry, that sometimes like change appearance, and sometimes you get the most
tip. Thank
what
you.
was that?
I said that's such a good tip, and I'm also saying hello to Helen Franklin. Hello to Julie Stroffair. I'm gonna take a guess at that.
I think she's over in WA, Julie.
Yes, she says hi from WA, so it's probably like late afternoon there. Welcome to the party.
Helen's a freezing Tasmanian. Okay, so we are just going to go rustic wilderness. So again, to experiment, place your inks around. You might want a dark one, and 2 lights on this side. Experiment where you put things, because this is all about sitting there, ignoring the cold outside, and making backgrounds. If you do something different, make a note on your cardstock of what you did different, so that you can go, that worked brilliantly, I want to recreate it, or you can go, that was an utter failure, I'm never doing that again. That's another thing I've done sometimes.
And just another question, both times with both techniques, I've seen you do like the 4 stamps, as in like the 4 areas. Is that just because basically that's roughly the size of the background that you're using?
That is exactly correct. And, on this one, let's throw, because we can, a bit of the blue at the top. There you go. Just because we can. Oh, I better write down that I added some salty ocean. For exactly what you said, made me think that. It's a salty ocean. I keep forgetting you can't see what I'm doing. I'm adding. So on this, I've done salty ocean, twisted citron, and rustic wilderness.
Perfect.
So again, we're going to spritz roll up. We get those beautiful beads of water. Now, you can use more or less spritz. Again, this is personal experimentation to see what you come up with. And you can also, instead of putting it down and squishing, you can put it down and drag it through and see what finish you come up with. See how you'll get a different finish there where you drag it? There we are. That blue has added just a tiny bit of, I can zoom. There we are. That blue has added just a tiny hint of blue through it. This light's making it be a bit reflective. But see how we've got a tiny bit of blue through that one? Because you never know, you may want to turn that into an ocean card later. Whoops.
Or sand or green. You could maybe do a pasture or a field. Hello, Beverly McDermott. Welcome.
So as you're working away at home, you'll just have an area off to the side. I recommend some newspaper. As they dry, ink will often run off the edge of them. Always clean up between uses. Oh, dear. I'm going to show you something.
Oh, no. Looks like a scene from a horror movie.
It's alien blood. Now, if you do that, wipe up straight away, because oxide, when it dries, I mentioned, you can't clean it up very well afterwards. So there you go. Wipe that up straight away. But it wouldn't be me if I didn't make a yes mess. Okay, so you can do that for hours at home, making all sorts of colour combinations. Now I'm going to show you why I recommended, if you go and grab yourself some cling wrap.
Cling wrap or plastic wrap, depending on where you're from. Should we start the potato cakes versus potato scallops versus, there's another name for them, debate?
Oh, yeah.
We've got most of Australia audience here. We could have a hot debate.
So in Tasmania, they're potato cakes. On the mainland, they're called scallops. And you can always tell a Tasmanian, because scallops are scallops to us, those seashell things. But to the rest of Australia, scallops are potato cakes. Now, I'm going to use it just because it's my favourite colour. I use this so much all the time.
Sorry, I got distracted by the potato cake scallop. So what you've done now is you've put just down your cling wrap, plastic wrap, kitchen wrap kind of thing.
Yep. Now I'm going to remember. Twisted citron, rustic wilderness on the back. Citron. I forget this all the time. So hopefully if I rustic wilderness. So hopefully if I say it enough, other people will remember. So now we're going to do the same technique. We're going to do a bit of ink on there, bit of ink on there. Beauty of this technique is you don't have to clean up afterwards because it's all in the plastic wrap. Bit of ink on there.
Oh, this is my kind of technique. Let's clean up.
But that's not why we're doing it.
Oh.
You're going to love this technique. This is the one technique where I did a here's I prepared earlier, because this will take a few hours to dry. So there we are. So you're going to spritz all over it. You're going to take your piece of paper.
Can you zoom in slightly, Shirley? You zoomed out a bit.
Okay.
Thank you.
So we're going to drop it in the middle, and we're going to wrap it up like a sandwich.
Ooh.
We're going to wrap her up, wrap her up, wrap her up, flip it over.
Oh my
and
goodness.
we're going to go wee and push and squish it all around like so.
You know what that reminds me of? When we were a kid, I don't know if you ever did, I'm sure you did, where you put some different dyes in a cup and then you get a straw and you blow it and then you get a bit of paper and you sit it on top. Reminds me of that.
Yep, yep. So now we are now going to sit that aside and leave it. I generally sit under the heat pump and leave it overnight. I the first time I saw this technique, I can't credit it the video. It was just some YouTube I was watching and I saw them do this and then moved on to the next one that stuck in the back of my brain. But I do remember when I was watching it, they said that'll be dry in half an hour. So I'm assuming they lived in the middle of a desert. Even in the middle of Tasmania, I have done this technique. It still takes hours to dry. Okay, so what happens when that dries? I did do one to show you all, and I did bring it over and put it on my table. And
While you're looking for it, I can say some comic relief.
Yes,
if you are watching the live or on the replay and you haven't yet liked the stream, please like the video. That goes a long way to help more people find us. So we would really appreciate that.
Seriously brought these over and sat them down so I could open them and show you. Oh, there they are. They're buried under something. So here's some I prepared earlier. So once you've left that to dry, and it does say rustic wilderness and twisted citrus.
Oh, you even wrote on the one earlier. You were really organised.
And I even put that I put it just on a normal 200 GSM cardstock, because sometimes I experiment between my cardstocks and watercolor paper and everything to see if one works better than others. Now you'll peel your plastic wrap off. Look at that effect. You can get amazing cards using this. Look at that. Oh, this one I did with actual watercolor paper, so it's different again.
Oh, just to look at the difference. Okay, yes.
Yep. Now, why do you need to leave it to dry? Water
I imagine if you lift it, it would just spread itself out.
Yes, that's exactly right. If you lift that now, I mean, you can unwrap it to have a look, but if you lift that and leave it to dry, you can see already the colours starting to smooth itself out and go even. So if you leave that to dry, you will just get a beautiful even finish. You won't get that way cool, splattery, plasticky wrap finish.
And one question, I know it's easy cleanup, but for the enviro-friendly who are sure to be watching this, once it's dried and you've unwrapped it, could you then use that piece again with the same colours so you could get multiple uses out of that one?
Absolutely you could. But yeah, as you said, same colours, because if you then went and did that with purples, you're bound to have some green get reintroduced.
Yeah, so if you're environmentally conscious, you could use it again and again until it wouldn't work so well with the same colours. And then you don't need to, cut down. I was going to say, is it trees? What makes plastic? Oh, I don't know. Bottles?
Yeah, they make them out of hydrocarbons or something. I'm not very
If my husband was here, he'd be giving us a giant lecture. So feel lucky, everybody, that he's downstairs.
Okay, then. So now, let's have a little bit more fun. So you're working away at home. I could literally keep doing this all night. I seriously could. But because how are we going for time? We only want to go about half an hour.
It is just coming up to 1:30 now. So if you go for 5 to 10 more, then we'll be good.
Perfect, because I know you had another appointment after this. So perfect. So just so everybody knows, there won't be one for the next 2 to 3 weeks. Suzanne and I are going away together.
Sisters are going on a road trip
for themselves. So we won't be able to, we will come on and do some lives and chat to people together in the same screen. Oh, look, I almost forgot to do my classic.
Colours. What colours are they? Is it a really
speckled
deep blue?
Egg. Yeah, there are shades of blue, speckled egg and chipped sapphire. And in typical me fashion, there it is. I was going to say I'll put now. So I just write.
So I wasn't paying attention. So we've got no glad wrap, cling wrap this time. It's back to the surface. And have you spritzed it yet? Because it looks like it has, or is it just?
Yes, I have. Yes. Okay, and then I remembered I needed to do my. There we are. There we are. Oh, look at those colours. See, we could turn this into a beautiful underwater card. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. So while I'm thinking of it, I'm just going to clean up my surface. So what we need to do now is semi-dry. We don't want to dry it completely because remember I said if we dry this completely, it's no longer reactive with water. So that's not too loud. It's not like deafening everybody, is it?
Your speaker's great. Can't hear anything. So you've got, like, for anyone listening, a little heat tool.
Yes. This is a heat tool I've had forever. You can't get these ones that look like hair dryers very easily anymore. If all you're doing is drying, you could be drying this with your hair gun, with your hair dryer. Yeah. So that is semi-dry. What we're going to do now is we're going to undo our water bottle, and I am going to splatter water directly onto it. Or if you want to stick your finger in there, I probably shouldn't do this because I'm probably now contaminating the water because I did have some blue ink on there. So don't do this at home directly.
Do as I say, not as I do.
That's right. Now, can people see what's happening? That water is washing away the colour. So what we need to do is now grab a tissue and dab away where the water was, and is that showing up? See, we now have water splatters.
Like little splashes. Potentially dumb question, but I'm never embarrassed to ask.
Never a dumb question. No.
Why did we semi-dry it first?
Because if it's really, really wet and you just add more water, it's going to get really, really wet.
So by semi-drying it allows the background to semi-set. So then when you flick it with water, it goes away and makes those bubble type things?
Yeah, because if it's super duper wet and you just add more water, it's just kind of going to... I mean, you could literally experiment with both at home and go, nah, I prefer this look with it not even semi-dried versus... because it was semi-dried, when the water landed on it, it was able to wash the ink away. If it was fully dry and we did that, it would not wash the ink away. I mean, working at home, if you did all these and you had 20 off to the side, by the time you'd finished 20 and you came back to your first one, you wouldn't need to semi-dry it.
That's a good idea. If you're doing a set number, then you could just kind of production line. I'm going to ink, and then I'm going to spritz, and then I'm going to flick, and
Yes. Now, for those at home, let's do one with just our regular ones, our regular ink. I was just thinking maybe I should work with the one that I prepared earlier, but I did things to them. Suze. I did things to them. So instead, I'm going to show you what I did to them. Because as I said, we haven't got much longer left, but people can work along live. Put some... I don't even know why I'm going to the same colours. I think it's probably because they're the only... Oh, no, I did bring others over. Anyway, I'm a creature of habit. I go to colours I love. So this is regular distress ink. Should write that too. Make a note. It's regular distress. And it was V Potion and S Lilac. That's enough for me to know what it was. Some people might be really neat and write the entire name. So we are going to...
And you must make that sound. Everybody listening, you've got to do that as you do it. It just makes all the difference.
Otherwise it won't work. Now, I used a lot of the dark purple. See how dark that is actually looking?
Yes, my favourite.
If you didn't like it as dark, you would use more of the light purple or whatever colour that you're working with. Now, this is particularly wet. Again, if you're at home, you'd be doing 20 of these, and by the time you've got to the last one, that will have dried. I am deliberately drying this for a reason. You now, because this is the regular distress ink or your regular Pink Fresh ink, whatever water reactive ink you've got, you can let this dry and come back to this technique. You could do all of these tonight and come back to this tomorrow.
Oh, that's good to know.
Yeah. You do want this to be fully dry. You can get away with it when it's not fully dry, but I think we get a better effect when it's fully dry. That's dry enough for us.
So if you want to keep drying, I can regale them with a story of last time. Well, not last time, but one time we went on a road trip together.
Oh, no. What did we do? Oh,
well,
tell me.
We're driving along. Cheryl-lee and I don't tend to plan things that much. We're just like, we'll see what happens. Yes. And we come across this sign that says wooden toys. And Cheryl-lee's like, let's go check this out. And I'm like, oh, okay, you're supposed to be drying while I regale. And so we pull in, and we go down behind someone's house, and we're in the middle of nowhere, and like
halfway up the East Coast.
Yeah, halfway up the East Coast of Tassie. No, I don't even think we had mobile phones. It was that long ago. I mean, even if we did, I don't know if there would have been reception there.
You were fresh out of uni. You just finished your first year or second year of medicine
so I was like
something.
18. Anyway, we go down this
dodgy backyard.
Yes, down the side, and this little old man that looks like a wizard from a 80s movie says, "Would you like to see my wooden toys?" And invites us
into his shed.
A shed. Now this shed it has no other entry or exit and no windows, and Cheryl-lee just goes marching in there. And you're like, "Oh, it's so cool, come check it out." And I'm standing outside. I'm like, "No, I'm not getting locked into a murder shed." So I still, to this day, say that I saved us, because imagine if I'd walked in behind you.
A still common catchphrase between Suzanne and I. Would you like to see my wooden toys? Okay.
Alrighty, so now it's fully dry. Oh, you've got a stencil.
A stencil. So any stencil you want. I've grabbed this one purely because it's got so many different textures on it. So now we're going to sit it down there. Now, what do you think that's going to happen when you dab at something that's water reactive with a wet rag?
I think it's going to go white in the spaces where the stencil is.
Yes, it's going to suck the ink out. You can only just see because I didn't go for long, but can you see where I've started to do that?
Yes.
Let's do it with this way cool uppy and downy texture. I'm sure there's more official terms for it.
Just for clarification, you just got a wet cloth, so like a damp.
I just have a wet cloth. Yep. If you wanted it really, really to come out, you could spritz it. See, this is my spritz bottle. I've got to make sure I'm under the camera, and then dry at it. And so it's really, really.
That's what I would have done. Yes, but anyway.
It depends if you want a discreet finish or if you really want to.
Have you met me? I don't want anything discreet ever.
How cool is that? Does that look like coral or something?
And that does look like coral. That is so cool.
So now we can dry away, because then I've got one final technique.
While you're drying away, we've got a question in the chat box.
Yes.
What is that stencil called and who's it by?
Oh, that is by the Crafters Workshop. Let's go for a run down the shop. Oh, they can all see my mess. Well, that's why it's called
the Yes Mess. You don't need to apologise.
Look at 49 everybody. Look at 49 in market. Look at Lavinia. Stencils.
You sound like an auctioneer.
Here we are. It is the Crafters Workshop. It's $9.95, and the code for it is PCW495S Mini Sea Bubbles.
Hang on, can you say that again? I'll type it out. PCW.
T for Terry, C for cow, W for
William. Walmart.
495S.
Sorry. 495S. Perfect.
Yep. Mini Sea Bubbles.
And I'll find it in the chat. I'll put it
in the chat. It's up on the website. Yeah. Look, we have Lavinia. We have lots of 49 and markets. You get to see my best. We have lots of tools. We are getting back. We're getting back. Lots of Tim Holtz inks. They're all the inks we're using at the moment. Okay, back to the desk. But one final technique. So that's nice. You do want this to be dry. So even if you sit this aside and come back to it in a little bit.
Sorry, just to clarify, you've dried it, you've put the stencil on, you've dabbed it or spritzed it or whatever, and then you've dried it again, like you want it to be dry again.
Yes. So people could see if you just dab it with a wet rag, you get a very discreet finish. If you spritz it and then soak it up, you get a very standy, outy finish.
Yep, I love that. It looks like coral, as you said.
And then how do you add colour, Suze?
You pick a different stamp pad?
Yes. Well, you can pick the same. If you want it to be in the same, so we're going to just get a blending brush, pick up a tiny bit of ink, and then we're just going to very lightly go over. Always start lightly because you can always add more. My stencil was wet.
Oh, no.
It doesn't matter. It's just going to slightly change the finish. You know what? It's still
actually, it's kind of good when you fudge things up when you're doing a demo like this, because for two reasons. One, it goes to show at home that happens to everyone and there's no mistakes in craft. And two, you can always salvage it.
Yes. you know what? I have decided I really like this way cool half circle thing. So I am going to do this, and I want it to be really dark. So I'm just picking up ink with my blending brush, and
I've got another question. Just so for those of you who didn't watch, we did a live last week. This is our second one. You had something, if you can remember what it was called, like a gold. It was by Tim Holtz as well, like an amber spritz or something.
Yes.
Could you put that on there, or would it not react, or would it
Oh
overreact?
no, you could.
Like,
that would be.
I don't know what
awesome.
I'm talking about.
Look at that finish. That is beautiful.
That doesn't feel like a background to me. That feels like an entire project.
Oh, well, then you can then put things on it. I mean, wow. Actually, doing this in blues and then putting fishy stuff on it would be gorgeous. But that spritz bottle, are they behind? Oh, look. I have some here. What colour do we want? Last week I used
gold or amber or something.
Now, where did I put them? I have all of them gathered here together. Oh, I haven't got them
like
here.
A wedding.
We
are gathered here today.
Do you want to put yourself on and pull faces at people while I run down and see if I can find them?
Okay, here comes the comic relief.
By pulling faces, you'll see what I mean. Suzanne and I were playing earlier.
Oh, those faces. I forgot about them. Hang on. We were playing. Just a moment. It was video filters. So there we go. I'll give myself an award. Oh, we didn't try this one. Oh, it gives us kind of like a Christmas in July type feel. Pizza Hut. There's Pizza Hut. There's Pizza Hut. You might be new to this live and going, what is she going on about? Oh, what's this one?
Here we are.
Oh, look, I'm on stage. Okay, you're back.
Yes.
How do I turn
Wilted
it off?
violet. So it's not the same purple, but it'll do. So giving it a good shake.
Hang on.
These are new out by Tim Holtz. So I'm giving it a good shake.
Okay, just a question.
Yes.
What would be the reasoning behind picking, like, because the background is purple and that's also a purple, even if it's not quite.
Yep.
Is it just because it's going to give it a glimmer effect? Like, I was thinking you would pick like silver or gold or something. I suppose it doesn't matter, but like, what is the
color? This is the beauty of experimenting at home. In fact, I'm going to write on the back that I've done wilted violet spritz. No, this is just purely me just keeping in one color family. Because I mean, this is live, and what if I chose a pink and it looked absolutely disgusting? Everybody laughed at me. You know what? We can do exactly that. So I have done just pink on there. It will need to dry. It does take a little bit to dry. And then those spots will stand out beautifully. Versus, what colour do we want on the other side? I've got, purple and orange. You can't go past purple and orange, can you?
Really? This is going to be curious.
Yeah, okay. So if this looks absolutely terrible,
it's my fault.
Okay, so this is called spiced marmalade. Rather than spritz the whole thing, I am going to just take this off and just add some splats on there. Oh, look at that. Love.
And for anyone watching, I'm just putting the link to that wilted violet spritz in the chat box. I was looking it up. Oh.
Would you like to see some of my wooden toys?
I apologize about the orange.
Now I'm going to wipe that up briefly, only because I know I never clean anything and I want people to think that I'm clever and I do clean things. Now, to speed it up, normally at home I'd leave it to dry on its own. If you dry things with a heat gun, it does tend to warp them a bit. Paper curls when it gets wet and is dried quickly. That's why I watched Dinah Reevely. I watched a video with her once, and she said she never likes to use a heat gun.
Oh, Deanna,
that's it. Deanna, she said she doesn't like to use a heat gun for this exact reason. It causes things to warp. Oh, look at that, where it's starting to dry.
Oh, that's glorious.
Handy thing when you're drying, you go like that, like you do with your hair. It disperses the heat and will be slower to work. If you just hold it still and then walk it across your project, it tends to dry ahead of your heat gun. So it kind of depends on what you're trying to do. So, don't have your finger under there because it burns. This was completely unintended. This is the beauty of lives. They can go in any direction. I had absolutely no intention of putting this on it until you mentioned it.
I love it.
You
No,
could,
that's really glorious. So if you hadn't chosen the orange, if you just, because did you end up putting the purple on there? I was looking
yeah,
away
there
for a
is some
moment.
purple on there. I'm going to wave it at an angle in a minute,
Oh, so
and
we
we
can see
will
the
see.
sheen. That would be wonderful.
Yes. I watched Tim Holtz do this, and you're looking at it and you go, I can't see that. And he said, that's the beauty of it. Then he waved it at a sheen. And I was like,
And the other
oh.
thing for people who are newish to craft, these are backgrounds. So sometimes you might put it together and be like, that's horrible. Like I've done it more than once. I think this one's glorious, but I wasn't so keen on the greeny brown one you had earlier. But once you add stuff on top, have you got any projects finished nearby, Cheryl-lee, with a background like this so you could show people what a finished product looks like?
I should have had some out. I often do. Let me put faces on again. I'll have a quick look around.
While we're in the interim, while she's having a look around, if anyone's got any questions, feel free to pop them in the chat box. I'll ask Cheryl-lee when she comes back. And yeah, because I've done a limited amount of craft, and sometimes when I do things like this, I'm like, you know, personal opinion, I'm like, this is awful. But then when you see it in the finished product, it's like, oh wow, it really lifts it or gives it pep or whatever language you want to use. So and sometimes like that purple one, I think that's so glorious, I wouldn't want to do anything with it. I'd be like, I don't know, maybe I just something little to it because it could be pretty much the entire project. Or I could think I could cut it in half and turn it into a bookmark. Like there's so many things that you could do with it. So yes. And while we are waiting, if you haven't yet liked the stream, please do. If you haven't subscribed to my channel, please do. For those of you who don't know, I'm Cheryl-lee's sister. And if you are bored for the next 2-3 weeks while we're doing our road trip, if you go to the playlists on my channel and go to the family shenanigans tab, some of you have met my children, Casimir and Xanthi. I've done a couple of interviews with them. Feel free to watch those and give them a like. So
I haven't.
We've got some questions. So sorry, are you right if I just read these out?
Yeah,
Charlene Brown saying, could you use the bubble wrap to get a different texture on the background?
Oh yes. Oh yes. Yes, you could. Again, you'd leave it pressed against it until it dried, and then when you peeled it away, you'd have bubbles all over it.
Ooh.
Oh, you've got my brain thinking now. And not just little bubbles. I've got different size bubbles.
Oh, can you imagine turning that into like an ocean? I'm now singing The Little Mermaid under the sea.
This is what I love about interactions.
Interactive lives as opposed to just a pre-taught thing. Because this is like the group think, hive mind. Hive, actually you can make a beehive.
You could in yellows. Oh yeah. So I'm going to wrap this in this, and tomorrow morning we can all have a look at this. So how quick can we do a background?
Oh, I love it. And while you're doing that quickly, Tracy Waters saying hello, late to the party. You're never late. Play doesn't start till you get here. If anyone was a Sweet Valley High lover like I was when you were younger, you'd recognize that. Kathy Dwyer saying, I've made a poo background. Yeah, that'd be me. I'm sure we've all done that. But once again, remember, it's in the backgrounds.
Poo tends to happen if you use too many colours and they blend together. Now,
I'll say there's other ways that poo happens too, but in your background,
when you eat too much, I'm going to leave that to dry, and
you can do a Facebook Live tomorrow and unpack how that, you know.
Yes. Now I want to, because every time I let go, the bubble wrap's coming away from it. I'm
going to put something heavy on it, like a
light weight on it, not heavy.
Well, not too heavy. You don't want to pop the bubbles.
Yes.
And Sharon's saying, there's a saying, don't fall in love with your backgrounds. Yeah, like I was the one who would like have so many layers to my things. They would all be an individual project, and together it just looked like a kid in a candy store let loose.
Now I couldn't find a card, but you know what? Let's see if we can destruct this card. Can we pull him off? That just came out wrong.
I was going to say, please don't decapitate the penguin in life. He's a penguin, isn't it?
Yeah, he's a penguin, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, I like his little wand. That's so cute.
Yes. But
oh my goodness. Yes.
Yes.
And then a little greeting or something.
Yes. And his little seasons tweetings could go down there. And, you know, he went from that card to this card. So this is why backgrounds are brilliant. We will turn these into some cards after we're back from our road trip. So to show people.
Oh, wonderful. And then we can bring him to our next iteration and then encourage people to watch, you know, you can see that's the exactly iteration of how it happens.
We're going to start with basics backgrounds, and then what you can do with your backgrounds. There's so many fun techniques you can do to really build this up. Yes. So out of curiosity, here was one I was playing with earlier, see the really.
Oh, I'll turn myself off. Hang on, sorry.
That's right.
There we go. So it's more zoomed in on your thing.
The same with the stencil, but I just used really big circles instead of little circles. I did exactly the same.
Oh, that's incredible. I love the texture. It kind of reminds me of like a snowfall.
Yeah,
Blizzard.
exactly. Yep, depending on your colours. So if you did that in nice ice blues, it would be an exact blizzard. If you did it in greens, you can do, in fact, two of my favourite ever colours, and I did bring them over. They look quite ghastly, those colours, but together, I love evergreen bower and something pinky. So that's evergreen bower.
Too, I just want to say for people who are watching, if you're new to this, like, you know, it goes without saying, but I'll say anyway, with any technique, we're watching Cheryl-lee, who's been crafting for, 20 years now, like over. And sometimes, you know, every master was once a disaster. If you haven't watched last week, the accordion story. So don't compare your, like, I'm new to this or I'm experimenting with, you know, like, we all do it, but this is the genius of this, practicing, and, you know, maybe I need a little bit less water, or maybe I need a little bit more ink or less ink, or these two colors aren't friends. So yeah, don't get discouraged by this.
See, I love those two colors together. Other people might not.
I don't. I'm going to be honest.
I love those two colors together.
But this is the glory of it too. Everybody's different. Like, I love the purples and the blues. I don't like the orangey or the brownies, but, you know, everyone's different. And also, depending what you put on top of it, you could make that into a Christmas thing. Like, I think you could put a bauble cutout, whatever you call it, in the
interestingly,
middle.
See that absolutely disaster, horrible little strip through the middle?
Yes.
I realised I used this last week to test strawberry. Remember in last week's video?
And it's lifting
through. It soaked through and affected the finish.
And then, if you really didn't like that, you could choose to stick your thing over the top of it, because this is a background.
Yeah, well, your thing will go in the middle of it. But you could also use that to make strips or do all sorts of other crazy finishes. So, yeah, there. Now, one further thing then before we go. So, if you take one of your Ori dry backgrounds, do you remember this very first technique we did where we had that not very nice finish?
Yes.
That was the very first one. Well, if you take one of the ones that we do like.
Marius is here. I assume it's Marius. It's Scrap Boys. Hello. Now, that was our beautiful background we did where we spritzed it with water, and we've got that way. Hang on, sorry, I got distracted. So firstly, you showed us the first one we did, the more kind of plain one, and then this is the second one that we did.
Yeah, and that was the one we did with no water. That was the one we did with water.
Okay, yes.
Yes, so if you then take your one, pop your ink down like so, and then just...
Oh, you know what that reminds me of? Remember Nan and Pop's cupboards?
Stippling. Oh, yes, our grandmother had that thing where she stippled all her cupboards.
Yeah, she got like a sponge and, yeah, that's glorious.
But see, and so I've done it again in purple, but you could do it in any colour, and you can get like a little... I probably should have ran my finger around the edges or something.
And smooshed it a bit.
Yeah, because I've got a really square edge.
Can you do that to one just to show people the difference now that you've smooshed it with your finger? Can you do one more?
Yep. And we get probably
it's not quite so
stark. I
stark.
probably used up all the ink. So hang on, if we go like that, and then we schmizzle around the edges, so we don't get that really...
It's a very official term, everyone. Schmizzle.
Yeah, schmizzle. And then we're less likely to get the sharp edge to it.
Yeah, so it doesn't look so like Nan and Pop's cupboard. It's more...
Yeah, exactly. And you know what? Instead of the darker purple, we could have gone any colour whatsoever, but I haven't got another one open. I was going to say any colour whatsoever. So here's our really light purple. Let's smizzle around the edges. Smizzle. And there we go. You get a nice contrasting light blue there.
Wow. I really like that.
Yeah. So there's so many techniques. We are going to do a lot more building up when we come back from our road trip.
Make sure you wipe down the background, because you've done so well so far. So don't leave us hanging here at the end.
Yes. And I didn't write abandoned coral and the colours on that other one. As it's starting to dry,
nobody noticed.
It is starting to dry. I'm curious if you start to like the colours more now it's starting to dry, or do you still hate them?
I personally still don't like it, but I think this is the value of something. We're all allowed to have our individual preferences. And the other thing too, if you're playing along at home and you don't have a pen, you can always put in the chat box what colour combos you're doing, and then that way people can come and maybe get inspired. So feel free to share your colour combinations.
See how that's turning to mud? Hate mud.
Yeah, isn't that interesting? Oh, so you're just going to Dab it.
Dab it off. Look at that. No
Perfect.
more mud. Yep. There's no reason you can't just dab
Scrap boys,
off.
are we creating backgrounds? Yes, we are. So
We
we're
sure
doing
are.
different types of techniques, which we've named our own way.
Yes. Now, if you had this beautiful purple background, you could go through this lovely lavender love Scrap Boys pad. Look at that.
Oh, look at that.
Imagine
Yes.
cutting out that beautiful dress and having it on one of our lavender backgrounds.
Oh, that is so glorious. Karen
Yep.
saying, can't wait for the road trip stories. If you follow this YouTube channel or like it, on the far right, there's what's called the community tab. I'm sure we will be posting photos there. And if you go to the shorts tab, we may end up doing some shorts as well, which are, for anyone who doesn't know, they're short videos, not long ones like this.
Yes. So yes, so we may do, they won't be planned, they'll be impromptu. So we won't be able to give very much notice. But
they'll be there ongoing too, though. So, like with a short or something, it's pre-recorded. It's not interactive like this. So, but you can comment on them and you can ask questions and stuff, and we can get to that later.
Yes.
Only one other thing too for everybody, who may not know, if you comment on someone else's comment, it doesn't notify us. Like, it's. I'm not saying don't do it, but if say, okay, Scrap Boys has commented, "Are you creating backgrounds for cards?" Later on, if someone replies and asks another question, I'm not going to see that because it becomes nested. It's not like Facebook. So always, if you can, make your own comments. If we ever miss it, please ask again, because sometimes people are like, oh, they're too busy. No, we might not have just seen it. So it's never like to ask again, but make sure it's a fresh comment, not nested.
Yeah. Okay, any other questions? We'll get you on to your next. If Maris is watching, does this look familiar? Maris was with me when I bought this for myself for my 50th birthday. It's some Baltic resin from Poland.
Oh, that's glorious. I haven't seen that. Or if I have, I didn't.
No,
register.
I don't think I've seen you since I got back from my trip.
No, we haven't. We haven't seen each other this year.
We haven't. Oh, this time next week we'll be having tea together.
We sure will be. Oh, thank you, Mary, for saying we both look so pretty. I don't know if you can see the chat now that you're back. I think you're on your own device.
No, I
so
can't
it makes
see
it tiny.
Yeah.
Well, if anyone doesn't have any last minute questions, we can hang on. Otherwise, we will wrap it up. And when we get back and do scheduled lives, we'll let you know. And if you haven't checked out last week's one where we did some stuff, feel free to. It's the one before this in the live tab. And I'm looking forward to seeing what the backgrounds become when we're back. Say,
feel free, if anybody gets a magic combo, to put it on our regular Facebook page in Facebook for other people to go, wow, I love that combo.
Plus Scrapbook Superstore Facebook page, and I'll link you there as well.
Yeah, and that way, post your backgrounds and we can go, wow, that's a great combination. And if you have an utter disaster and you want us all to laugh,
post that too.
Yeah, post that too, so we know. Never see, Suzanne would say, I'm never doing those two colours, but I love those two colours.
And I think it just makes you feel that you're not alone when you do have a fumble, or what you think, don't yuck someone else's yum. So it's like, I didn't choose that one, but you may love it. So we got some thank yous. This was fun. Yeah, thank you so much for coming. This was fun.
And feel free to start again at the beginning and make some more cards, or just go on and keep. Tomorrow I will reveal that bubble wrap one. I can't wait on that.
I can't wait. And that will be on the Facebook page. If you haven't liked Cheryl-lee's Facebook page, I've just linked it in the comments. But yeah, I'll link that when you've done it, I'll link it in the comments as well, the replay, so you can see the reveal.
Yeah. Okay.
Awesome.
See you,
all right, thanks everyone. Bye.